What's good, y'all? Track Kennedy back with StudioSounds.com, and in this video I'll be doing a quick breakdown of a Nav type beat that I did a while ago. The track just had a moody Nav type feel to me, but still has some of those happy top end melodies, which is something you hear him do a lot in his music. I kept this beat pretty simple and basically only used two things for the entire beat: Muddy Cups 2 for Silence and the Legends Never Die drum kit. If you're interested in adding either of those to your sound library, make sure to use the link and code in the description for your $10 credit. Make sure to take a second to like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments what other kind of videos you'd like to see me covered, what styles, what artists, what producers, and I'll try to get those out for you guys. Without further talking though, let's go ahead and jump into the beat. So if we take a look at this actual project, everything's kind of centered and based around pattern 1. So I'm going to go ahead and break down pattern 1 and then kind of move from there, and I'll actually go ahead and just break it down from the hook and then move to the verses. So the very first thing that I started off with is this kind of African mallet type sound. I just wanted kind of a different, unique type bell, and it just had a cool texture to it. So this is what I played with it to start the track off. That just had kind of like a cool little melody, cool little bounce to it, and like I said, the sound had a cool texture to it, which kind of made it a little bit unique to me. So from there, I wanted to go ahead and layer. So that's kind of what I do. Once I have my first little melody, I try to kind of find different ways to layer and find different ways kind of accentuate it and make it a little bit more interesting. So the very next thing that I added to it was this kind of smeared bell, which is a little bit softer than most bells you hear. And it's basically just playing 4 notes. I just thought that sounded good and complemented that first melody well. They're both really simple, but as you kind of continue to stack them, to just sound better and better in my opinion. So the very next thing I added to that was this little motion pad. These motion pads are just very useful just because, as the name says, they have kind of a little bit of a movement to them. So you can play really kind of regular stuff and start getting a bounce and a groove to your track that you can't really get from regular pads. So when you layer this with the other two elements, is what you get. So I just thought that edginess of that kind of sound complemented the other two elements well, so I wanted to layer it in there, and then the nice little movement just helps kind of with the groove of the track. So the very next thing I layered to that was another little pad sound, the Purple Drank sound, which if I play just a simple chord with this, you'll kind of hear the movement in this as well. So it just kind of makes the track a little bit more interesting and sound a little bit more complex, and I thought it would just kind of layered well in here. So let's go ahead and take a listen to what these 4 sound like. So that to me just had a cool melodic sound, but was still kind of light and airy and had that Nav type feel. So the very next thing I wanted to add to this was just kind of a bass line. I didn't want to go with an 808 just because I didn't really want it choppy. I wanted it to be a lot more smoother and airy. So I just used this little detuned sub from Muddy Cups 2 again. And when you layer this with the melodies, this is what it sounds like. So that's basically pattern 1, and then everything was kind of built on top of this. So pattern 2 is the little melody that comes in for the hook, and this is just a little pluck sound, a dreamy little pluck sound, and here's what it sounds like by itself real quick. So this kind of pluck gives you that little happy melody that you kind of hear him and Uzi do a lot, and I just thought it sounded good in here. It was like a nice little touch to add for the hook. So when you layer these together, this is what you end up with. All right, then you get to the B section of the hook over here. From here, I have some drums drop in just to give it a little bit of energy and just make it a little bit different. So the very first thing that I added in here was just a very simple little hat. And with this hat, this is what it sounds like. I just trimmed the tail of this little hat. It's almost kind of like a little crash type sound, but I just kind of like using it when I'm looking for a nice heavier type hat. I'll just go ahead and shorten it up and it just gives me a cool little sound. So that's where I started off with the track. And another thing I want to talk about real quick is just kind of quantizing your hats. If you feel like your tracks are sounding a little bit kind of mechanical and robotic and don't have bounce, make sure to play with some of these grooves that you can get just from quantizing. So select the notes you want. I usually always do it on my hats, my kicks, and like percussion. I usually don't do it on snares. Sometimes I do, but it's kind of rare. But my kicks and my hats pretty much 100% of the time. And you just want to go ahead and select and hit Alt and Q, and then you'll get this little template, and you can go ahead and select a bunch of different kind of grooves that you can kind of check out and start getting ideas for the track. And even, like I said, building grooves for the track, that's kind of what they're there for. And you can select them, and then you can also play with this little velocity setting, which will give you a different velocity for like trappish type tracks. You can use more kind of velocity type stuff like this, where it kind of varies a lot. But for southern stuff, I usually try to keep the velocities a little bit more uniform. But when I'm doing more backpack type stuff, or stuff that's just a little bit more hip hop oriented, I'll do the more kind of heavy velocity swings, which just gives you a heavier kind of head nod, in my opinion. But like I said, I don't want to rant too much. It's just a simple little way to start getting grooves into your tracks. But this is what it sounds like. So as you guys heard right there, just a simple little crash, and then I just used a little bit more of a natural kind of open hat versus the 808 machine type hat that you kind of always hear, just to make it different, try to make it a little bit more unique, and just add a simple little note like that in there every so often. And then on 7 is where I'm gonna have basically all of my snares and my claps. So we have 1. So nothing difficult there, just a simple little snare pattern with a little roll. And then I just layered to thicken it up with a second snare that I kind of pitched up a little bit, just to help it blend a little bit better. And then just a clap to help thicken it all up. Then from there, just add a simple little kick pattern. Again, this is from the Legends Never Die drum kit. Not sure if I mentioned that, but just a simple little kick. Just made sure I didn't hit it on the 1, just because I felt like it would make it a little bit more unique, a little bit more interesting to bring it in a little bit later. So I just kind of avoided the 1 right there. And then just kind of, as you guys can tell, simple little kick pattern, nothing really crazy right here. And this is one of those things that you want to quantize. So usually if you have little rolls like this, some of these might be fine, but if they're kind of little smaller rolls, you want to go ahead and avoid the little rolls and just kind of select the notes that you want to quantize. So for example, if you quantize rolls and different stuff like this, depending on where it is, it can kind of make these rolls sound a little bit choppy and a little bit weird. So if it's kind of like a little roll or anything like that, I try to avoid it and just do kind of notes that are a little bit further apart. You still kind of get the same effect. So kick, like I said, really simple. And that's pretty much, as I can tell, this is pretty much most of the hook. Then I have like a little reverse hat. You guys all, excuse me, not a reverse hat, but a reverse tape crash. I don't know why I made that so complicated, but basically like that. And then you guys always see me just add like a little heavy reverb or a delay or something. To this one, it was just a heavy reverb, and then just like a little EQ just to get rid of the bottom end. And this little reverse crash just starts to build suspense and makes kind of the listener think like, okay, something new is coming up, which is what I use to transition it into the second verse. So let's go ahead and just play that all together. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at this real quick. As you guys can tell, this is really simple. It's just a little hat, all the little patterns that I already covered. Then over here, basically all I switched up was, if you take a look at pattern 1 and then pattern 10, the only real difference is that this is gone. This little purple drink pad over there is gone. So just kind of switch it up, make a little bit more area at that part. And then the other thing that I added was on pattern 9. This is just the old kind of, actually, let me go ahead and just reverse it. This is what it sounds like naturally. I still have it kind of filtered, but without anything, this is what it sounds like. Sorry, I didn't turn it off. And this is just an old kind of loop that we had in our pack that we dropped a while ago. That's actually not available anymore, but it's just a simple drum loop, and that pack was called actually Class Reunion. But I just used this little drum loop to add kind of a cool little texture in there, really, just because it's filtered so much anyway that you won't hear a ton of it. But when that little section comes in, you drop out that little pad to make it a little bit more airy and open, and then bring in this little texture. I just thought it kind of sounded cool, but you just have to really listen for it. Let me go ahead and make sure it's on. But yeah, let's go ahead and take a listen to it real quick. So it's that kind of little slithering, moving type sound in there. I just thought it sounded good. And I'm not sure if I mentioned it, but there's nothing actually on this gross beat. It's just in there. I forgot to remove it. So that kind of switches that little piece up. Let me see if there's anything I'm missing. These are just my tags, nothing really crazy there. And this is just a little tape stop that I programmed using the D-Blue glitch. So right here at the end, use the little red section to signal the tape stop. Kept the slow down at 25%, which is what it is default, I believe. And I'm not sure if the speed up, I believe the speed up is actually lower, and I just increased it to 10, but that might be the stock setting as well. But this is kind of what gives you that cool little tape stop and start effect. But let's go ahead and take a listen to it real quick. So I just thought that was a little bit more unique than a regular tape stop. So I thought that sounded pretty good. And let me just see. It looks like there's two things I still missed. So this is just a little transition riser, and I just thought this sounded good. It's like I said, like it's named, I should say, the chaotic riser. I thought it was just nice and dramatic and would sound kind of cool in there to help with the transitions. So that's pattern 3. You hear it every so often, like right here, for example, and then over here as well. All right, so very simple. And then that's actually it. Looks like this pattern actually isn't even used. And just a quick trick, when you're actually mixing stuff, sometimes we add stuff in here that we don't end up using or whatever, and just kind of can make the pattern a little bit messy. So if you're kind of confused on what you did use in a track or you didn't use, if you just go up here to macros, you can actually select your unused channels and it'll select them for you, so you can go ahead and delete them. And if you have audio clips, you can go to macros as well, and you can click purge unused audio clips, and it'll get rid of those as well. It just kind of helps you clean up your project before mixing. So just a quick little tip. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe. Let me know what you guys would like to see next. Until next time, StudioSounds.com.